Welcome to the Adam Nolan Show. Today I have legend, sound man, smoker of fags, cool dude, Jimmy Saunders.
How you doing? How you doing, Ed?
Good to see you, man.
Good to see you too, buddy.
So yeah, I like Jimmy's originally from Kilkenny, but has done a lot of amazing things over the years, and I was lucky enough to bump into him and connect. So I wanted to do a little interview and see where we go. So first of all, I'm going to start smoking my fag, Jimmy.
Yeah, go ahead.
Mind.
Go ahead, ask me any questions you like, Ed. Just to let people know that I'm back in the scene. I lost my brother last month, and went through a hard last 4 years. And I announced I was back in the scene so many times, but I lost my brother in 2019, a good friend of mine, James Cody, 2021, my mum, and this year my brother just a month ago. So everything was kind of like that, but yeah, still back in the scene.
Yeah, it's good you're still around, man. And the reason you came back to Kilkenny, or Ireland even, is because to see your ma, was it?
Well, I'm going to take these off because it's getting cloudy, but yeah, I came back because of my mum's last couple of years, and I was still able to DJ and make records in London, and then I came to Kilkenny to be much closer to mum. So you know, I've done a fair bit while in Kilkenny, because I have a studio set up in my apartment, so it's pretty nice, and so I work a lot from there as well.
Great, man. And I want to bring things back now, like, so I'm wondering, like, what inspired you to go? You first left to London.
Yeah.
So can you tell me what year, or if you remember what year,
Yeah.
and just give us a bit of your history, you know, like, and
Well,
you know, like, what? Let's go back to the very start. Like, what inspired you? You're originally a guitar player, was it, or?
Yeah, I played guitar in 1988, 89. First of all, I was born in 1967. So I played guitar in 88, 89, and went to Australia, joined another band in Australia.
What was the name of the band?
Well, we called ourselves the Hubba Bubba Yum Yums. And so when I came back to Ireland from Australia, I started up a band with a guy from Dublin, and we called ourselves the Hubba Bubba Yum Yums.
Ah, very good. And what kind of style was it?
It was very much, it was kind of like the Water Boys, and because we had a violin player as well. And I'd like to give a big shout out to Willie Henderson for putting up with me drinking and playing guitar on stage during that time. Yeah, I was into Simple Minds, and I was into a lot of stuff like the Cure music and things like that.
Cool, man. Okay, and what inspired you then to get out to DJing?
Well, I went over
producing, like.
Yeah, I went over to London for my first time in 1991. Straight back from Australia. I was only 21, 22.
Right.
And I got inspired from cassettes I heard in Camden Town. They were sold in Camden Town, and they were the best DJs in London. And I came back to Ireland, did a bit of college for 2 years in parallel, and then made a decision to travel to London in 1993 to emigrate. So I joined the band over there. I can't remember the name of the band even, but I was with them for a year, absolutely fabulous. And I met a friend of mine, a good friend, Henry Okafa. If you're listening, I hope you like this pod. So Henry was a great influence for me. He was called DJ Panic, and he taught me how to mix on the decks.
Right.
So we did so much together, and
was it kind of like one of these things where you just arrived with like €3 in your pocket and a sleeping bag?
No, I arrived with, after selling a lot of stuff from my house, which my mother went mad about.
Right.
And I raised £90
Okay.
And I said, right, I'll stay at my brother's for a couple of weeks and then get my own apartment.
What would £90 be equivalent to now?
Probably about 140 euros.
Okay, right. Not too much.
That's pretty good at that time. A lot of people went over there on a wing and a prayer, you know.
Yeah.
And so I then wanted to buy my first set of decks to see if I could do it. And I remember I spent about 400 or 500 on the decks, threw my decks out the window one time in a rage because I wasn't doing the job right. And
Often wanted to do that with the sax.
Oh, I did, absolutely. And then I got another set of decks, and I got better at what I was doing. And then I got my first set, which was 1200s, Technics 1200s. And then I went higher. I went for the Technics 1210s with a mixer, and that was it. I got my first ever gig in a tent. It was absolutely free. It was great practice to get used, because I was quite nervous. So it was great practice to get used to people and seeing whether they thought the mix was good enough or not. And then a year later, through a friend of mine, Jason Sharp, I got my first ever gig in Watford, in a place called Paradise Lost. And so they kept me on for a year, and things went higher.
Deadly. And I don't know, like what was the kind of first style of DJ music? It was house, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, I owe a lot of credit as well with Cormac Conanan. Cormac is from Ireland, and he was living in Kilkenny at the time, and I was mixing house, soul house, just pure soul house.
You would get old records and mix them up a bit, or you would just right from scratch?
Cormac was the scratcher.
Right.
And he was great. And we went up to my house in Lochby at the time, and we did a lot of practice when I'd come back from England. And so then I went back to England, and I was asked on to radio shows.
Right.
So to do radio shows in England. Now, we weren't getting paid at that time because every radio station, even Kiss FM, was private. It was pirate. They were all pirate stations at the time. And it wasn't until I think it was about late 90s that BBC One Extra came in and went with the license, obviously. And I started doing my shows on Pulse FM, Dawn FM, and mostly Pulse, Fantasy FM. So we'd do a gig on a Friday or Saturday night, and the very next day then we'd be wide awake. I'm not going to tell you the reasons, but we'd be wide awake and we'd go straight to the radio stations and we'd DJ for 2 hours with our MCs. And after the third year I went into drum and bass. So drum and bass was a massive move.
Right, and what year was that? Or year?
Yeah, that was 1996.
Okay, yeah.
So, you know, I wasn't the only Irish guy over there doing DJing, but I was one of the toppest Irish guys that ever came out of Ireland that actually got on the scene. And the best way for people to get on the scene is
I was going to ask that.
Is the gangster movement.
Right.
And I spent a lot of my time in West Ham on the weekends, so I knew an awful lot of
gangsters.
Yeah, and they were running the clubs.
Right.
And so you had, I did the famous club for the wrong reasons, Raquel's in Essex, and clubs like that in Tottenham Court Road and Peckham Rye Lane. That was called a laser drone. So I had my first, my first MCs in drum and bass, brilliant MCs, was in the laser drone, Rye Lane and Peckham, then the Astoria, in Tottenham Court Road and places like that. So it all went to there.
So you got noticed in London?
Yeah, I got noticed by so many people, and I'll tell you the reasons. As luck would have it, don't forget, I was born in 1967, and so I grew up with Glenn Campbell and the Carpenters, and grew up in the time that EMF were coming out. I was going to concerts at 20 years of age and 19 years of age. Cheers to Paul Kelly, if you remember the Fela. Paul is just after moving back from Vietnam. But coming from all of what I've seen and all of what I've done with music, I wanted to be a part of it. And it just so happened I was probably one of the luckiest guys. It was pure luck in my life. When I start selling my tapes, and a lot of people remember when I was selling my tapes in Kilkenny, cassettes, and
cassettes are the best.
yeah,
The coolest.
absolutely.
Vinyl are great, like, but cassettes are just when you have someone's cassette, it's just a different friendship with the artist, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, when you can hold something,
Yeah.
you're holding the music personally in your hands. So,
Yeah.
I got number 1 on the list of Zoom Records. Now, Zoom Records were in Camden Town, and that used to be run by Nicky Black Market. And I ended up out of the top 30 mixes, going straight down to number. I was called DJ Steptoe at the time. I didn't know what to call myself.
No, that's alright.
And if anybody remembers in the old, when I was DJed in Henderson's, that was all DJ Shamrock. So, you know, I didn't know what to call myself, man. I went into Zoom Records, met up with Nicky Black Market. Nicky got me the gig in the Rocket Club in Tottenham Court. I think it was Tottenham. No, Rocket was in, can't remember which road it was. And but that was the Rocket Club, absolutely kicking it it was. And you wouldn't see anything like it in Ireland. And I knew that this is where my future was going to be, because that's where the future was with music. What was the other question there?
I said Def Jam.
Yeah, I got signed up with Uptown Records, and Uptown Records were a shop in London, just off Soho, and Nicky Black Market moved across the road with Black Market Records. So I met the guy that was running that at the time in the early 90s was Pete Waterman. Now, Pete Waterman was with Stockake and Waterman, and if any of you guys know, it goes back to he was running Kylie Minogue and Bros and just about everybody, Jason Donovan. But I was very lucky to meet Pete, and I met him in the shop in Uptown Records, and he decided to ask me to join some of the lads there because I used to mix behind the counter. And he just said, you guys want to go to Holland and Poland. There's a video on YouTube, it's very hard to find it now, but we're on a boat going through Amsterdam with the big speakers on it. I had long hair at the time.
I've seen photos.
Yeah,
it's cool.
And I used to have my hair in plaits, you didn't see the plait one.
Yeah.
But that was pure pumping house.
Yeah.
And all of Amsterdam was out on their windows and everything. So we were bringing house music to the masses in Poland and Estonia and places like that. So Pete paid for the gigs. But it reminds you of the Burn Identity, some of the hotels. Because the hotel in Russia, we were only there for 3 days, and I ended up arm wrestling for a night, and that worked out good. But some of the hotels in Eastern European countries were very, very bad because of the weather, the icy weather, the gas. The gas was mostly coming from Russia, and the fires in these hotels were basically built on the ground, right there. So that was your fire in the hotel. And that could have been somebody that just opened up an old building and decided to take people in for money. But you had to sit beside that fire before you head up to your room. There was no heating in the room. But we DJ'd in all these places, and it was fabulous, really, really fabulous.
Great, man. And do you have any plans to go to London soon? I think you were saying that to me last time. You have something coming up in London soon.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things. Before I go on to London, I'll talk about being signed up.
Yeah.
The signing of, I did that signing with Pete Waterman. It was only for the house music. And then I got signed up, and I ended up buying a label called Mystery Records. And so I sold Mystery Records at a great profit. To me, it was a very good profit of 20,000 to an Italian record label in Italy, obviously, and they got signed up with Mystery Records to Ministry of Sound. And by that time, going into 2000s, in 1999, my son was born. So then, after my son was born, I went to a school called Point Blank, where I met, God, I can't remember his name again, very famous DJ, and I met Paul Oakenfold, actually, Tall Paul, Paul Van Dyke, Brocky, you remember Brocky in Ibiza? That's Brandon Block, and so I skipped DJing for nearly 3.5 years, 4 years, because of my son, and I came back as DJ J Angel, not DJ Angel, not DJ Angel, DJ J Angel. And it was interesting because there was a lot of people came up to me and wanted me to do hard house. So if you look at YouTube, I'll send you on a link ad.
I'll leave your links in the description of this video as well. All good stuff.
And one of them is in Middleton Keynes, and it's hard house. So that was all vinyl. There was other DJs then coming in, and they were mixing on DVDs, and I was never a DVD or what shall I say, CD. I was never interested in CDs, and I wasn't interested in anything else. If you could be a DJ, then you could at the time when I was in Point Blank, I was there for 2 years, and I was doing all the online courses and going into the course, and again I met George Dowd, and it was much better than when I met him in ministry. He was an absolute crazy dude, and I'd met from Imagination, the old band that was in Top of the Pops. They were after getting six number ones in Top of the Pops, and so I started producing them records from 2007 and producing my own records. And then they were going out basically on websites like MySpace and things like that.
And you were working at the time as well. You had like a side job.
Every day I worked. Every single day I worked. I was never out of work in England. I worked in places like Harrods. I was in Harrods for 4 years.
What's that, clothes shop?
Yeah, the Harrods.
I don't really know.
I used to meet, well, I used to see at least once every 3 weeks Lady Diana.
Okay.
Because though the what's his name? What's the owner's name? Mohammed Al Fayed. His son was going out with Lady Diana, and that's who crashed in the car.
Right.
Dodie and Diana. But wonderful experience, best experience of my life. Met everybody you want to meet. Came into Harrods every day, from the Sultan of Brunei, and one of the guys, the Irish guys that I worked with, his brother had a spot in ministry for once every 3-4 weeks in the chill out rooms, and that's where I started off, in the chill out rooms in ministry. So then got tangled up with, if you guys remember out there, Technotronic. And it just so happened that myself and David Martin, which Eric Martin was the lead singer of Technotronic. So this beat is Technotronic. Eric's got the beat, come down on it. So we were all together for a couple of months, and so that's the way the cookie crumbles. And a lot of people ask me, how did you get as far as you get? For me, Kilkenny is a dead town now. To me, there is no industry, there is no music industry. I can't see much of an industry bar radio.
Yeah.
In Ireland, but I do see an opening still today in London.
Very good.
Very much, you know, in France as well. And I have a lot of people on my websites. I got a website, jimmysaunders.com, and it's still used every day by people from Poland, Brazil, Russia, Ireland, England especially. And then my newest website, which is called jimmysaunders-music.com, which has got my new house stuff on it, and it's off the hook every day, so very pleased with that. And obviously I wrote a book as well, and that's Jimmy Saunders From the Outside In. That's what the book is called, From the Outside In.
Cool.
So at 55
You're not doing too bad.
you know what I mean?
Great, man. I'll leave links to your book as well and all that.
Yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit about the book, actually?
Well, the book is about when I grew up in Castlecomer, and as a child, and my mother reared us, just my mum. My dad had left. My uncles were all miners in Comer, and the book is dedicated to my mum. She died 2 years ago at the age of 92, and I have to say, I know we all say it, but she was the most wonderful lady in the world. For a lady that was even
What was her name?
Annie Saunders.
Annie Saunders, yeah.
And for a lady that when I used to come home every summer to visit Mum, I used to get her to, Mum, you have to listen to this new song. Oh, I'm not interested in this banging, 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 but you have to hear it, you know.
Yeah.
And she'd be one of the first people to hear it. And she started to like it then. She never understood the music, but she liked it, and she liked the beat sound, and she started to get into how did you do that part, and
Yeah.
and my records, every instrument that's on my records between guitar, because I play guitar, I play jazz guitar, rhythm guitar, lead guitar, keyboards, strings, everything is mine. All the beats are mine. I make all the beats, so every part of the record is all mine. The only samples that we took were on Secrets in the House, when we took the sample of Rihanna and Jay-Z, and so that's a double CD. So yeah, that's it. So the book is really about Castlecomer, and it sold so well in Kilkenny. I'm so delighted to everybody that bought my book. I can't say it enough. And so I'm re-extending the book from this size to this size.
Okay.
So it's going to be hard copy with a plastic cover, you know.
Deadly. And do you just base that all to your fans, or do you put ads into it?
Well, the book is a personal book about my life.
Yeah.
The next book is going to be about DJing and where I went. It's going to kind of continue, but it's going to go into with pictures of me with people I met on the scenes, like George Dowd, Lee John from Imagination, and lots of guys from EMF and the Apex. I don't know if anybody heard of the Apex Twins. I was lucky enough to meet them. I was very lucky enough to meet Orbital.
Cool. I like that.
Yeah, they were brilliant.
Where did I get a cigarette?
Yeah, Jesus. Very, very lucky enough to meet all these guys, and you know, I was lucky I had friends with cars. I didn't have a car at the time, so friends were taking me to every gig, and then we'd go backstage and meet people on the gigs, and there was no digital cameras.
Right.
So there was no, you know, I didn't get my first digital camera, I think it was 2007, you know, and but today you got people going like this. The photographs I have are taken from, yeah, that's lovely though.
Thank you.
The photographs I have are taken from the Kodak cameras.
Right.
And in the rave scenes in the 90s, if you walked into a club, you're more than likely going to get beaten up with the bouncers because of the ecstasy situation and everything going on that was there. So the only people that were allowed to have a camera in a club up to about 1999 was the promoters.
Right.
And a lot of the promoters were, like I said, gangsters. Carton Leach, West Ham, great stuff, mate. You promoted some of the best raves. You were in there, man. And a lot of guys from West Ham. I support West Ham, so a lot of guys from West Ham were pushing on the rave scene, and And if you go out and check a movie called Rise of the Foot Soldier about Carlton Leach, you'll see what it was like.
Right.
For the guys to 1 minute be a football hooligan and then start thinking about hugging each other, you know. So it was great.
Very bad. So you're going to New York next year, you're saying?
Yeah, well, I have a few gigs lined up in England, and there's one that's I've been asked to play in a place called the Eclipse in Coventry, and it's a comeback for the DJs from the 90s, and I was on that, so I'll be playing the chill out room on that, not the main event but the chill out room. And then the Laser Drone is going to do an event, and AWOL is always doing an event. Terry Stone, if you're listening to this, he's done Rise of the Foot Soldier 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, and a new one I think is coming out now. But Terry, do you remember I used to DJ for you in Club UN? He was the biggest fucking nutter, mate. Right?
Any funny stories?
Well, yeah, the best story was, I think, when I was DJing drum and bass for Terry Stone. Terry, there was a lot of tough doormen, but Terry wouldn't let anybody pick up his money that was at the door except his old mother.
Right.
So there was like a fence and a plastic glass and another fence preventing Terry's mother from having, if anybody ever broke out. So Terry's old mum in a place that was so futuristic with music and DJing, and Terry's mum was always there, and it's almost like looking at my little mum taking the money in a rave, you know. So it was very good. That was my funniest part. I played a place called Fabric. Henry, you remember this? And Fabric was a very dangerous place down Brixton way, and I remember when I was in a house in Orpington, thanks to Kerry Greenway. Kerry did tracks with some of the best artists in London, and me and Kerry were great friends, and her husband Steve. And right across the road from Kerry lived a young guy that was in the Omen 1.
Oh really? I was only talking to someone about that last night.
Yeah, but he wasn't very well, you know. And so I didn't meet him, but I used to see him. Kerry's house was beautiful in Orpington, and then Kerry said, listen, come down for morning breakfast. I got a friend that's coming in, he's going to bake us some sausages. And there was Carol Cox, and Coxie just came in with a massive tray, that barbecue tray. And I say that's how we used to get together with musicians and producers. Kerry was a great person for getting me into Cubase. That was my DAW. And then when I was in Point Blank, then I learned Ableton Live, Logic Pro and Cubase, and my favourite just happened to be Cubase, and it still is today. So
yeah, a lot of the old school DJs they seem to love Cubase.
Well, it's just, you know, it's getting better and better, but
yeah,
it beats going into a studio. I mean, you don't have to go into before you used to go into studios and there'd be maybe 30 track or 20 track, and you're only fucking playing 2 things, you know. But when you build your own home studio, and it's so easy now, so I started getting complete 5, complete 8, complete 12, which came with instruments from every angle all over the world. So whatever music I made, I can add whatever I need. It's all right there at my doorstep, right in my bedroom. So, you know, there's no such thing as going to a studio anymore.
No, I don't see the need for it really, unless you have a live band or something like that. And,
yeah,
you know, most of the stuff my jazz stuff was recorded on an analog Zoom recorder.
Yeah,
you know, Thank you. And yeah, I just love the kind of rawness, the old school way of it. Like, and no, I do love studios as well. Like my first two albums were shot in a studio, like recorded in a studio, and they definitely do have a different kind of quality. But I don't know. I think you just get like from like something like an analog Zoom, like if it's set up properly, like you get that real live sound. Now for the type of stuff I was doing, like free jazz, I thought it worked. It depends really, but yeah, for your stuff, I guess you can do it all from Cubase.
This guy, I hear music every day of my life, and I'm not being snobby about this.
Good name.
But of all the musicians I met in Ireland, and there was a few, I was very fortunate enough to meet, and I still love his music, Paul Brady. I don't know if anybody's heard of Paul Brady. John Martin, dear John, rest in peace, brother, the best artist that ever lived in Thomastown. But of all the people I hear on sax, I think Adam here is, I came up to him one day and I said, Ad, I'm doing this really good track. And I said, how would you like to get involved with me? I have to speak to my manager on that one, Jim. And but it
I was in the purest jazz phase at the time.
But he's definitely going to be on a couple of tracks. I'm going to get myself back together now and do some beautiful tracks. And some of my tracks got signed up with in Spain. Oh God, what's the bloody Capa del Mar? So I'm on 3 albums of Capa del Mar. And the track that got signed up recently was The Beach, but they bought another 2. So when you're selling your songs, and I know you're going to ask me to advise people, but when you're selling your songs today, on today's market, it used to be that you get 5,000 euros, and then you get your radio play. Now, when DJs, by law today, on legal radio stations with licenses, they have a system, and so you either get 10 or 20 cents depending on how many plays. Now Radio 1 is absolutely magical for me. Kiss FM is magical. All the guys in London, I get all my support in London, and I get #1 support. If anybody's on my Facebook, and you'll see that the support I get is unbelievable in London. But I also get great support in places like Brazil, and speak to people in America and Philadelphia, and that's...
So what's your favourite part of New York to play?
Well, there's lots of jazz clubs in New York, and there was one club there called Freedom.
Cool.
And Freedom was actually designed, it's not running anymore because of what happened with COVID, but there's still other clubs like that, and I can get into any club I want. There's all new clubs happening in New York now, but Freedom was great because it was places like that Gil Scott Heron was invited into. I mean, that's where he started off. Then went down to Michigan and Philadelphia, and so you have the likes of them. Now, if you get into a club and you're DJing in a club in New York that some of the very famous guys were DJing in, or and what I mean by famous is all the old guys from the late 80s and early 90s, and if you can get in there, you come out with £1,000.
Wow.
That's only for doing 45-50 minutes.
Amazing.
So, and that's all depends on who you know, which Adam knows. I've got a few little contacts coming his way.
Thank you.
I'd like to say hi to Dave in New York. Dave, we're going to be in contact about Adam. Amina's over there at the moment, and she's staying with Dave and his family, and her fiance Ralph. How are you doing?
Very good.
Sorry, I think I'm after doing that to you.
You're alright.
So in New York, there's lots of places. The only place that I regret that I haven't gone in America is Chicago. Because
it's supposed to have a great free jazz scene there.
Absolutely.
I've seen this documentary about the free jazz scene there.
Absolutely.
Absolutely sick, like.
Chicago house, you know, and because I take some tablets at the moment. My memory isn't great, but I wanted to mention a couple of names like Marshall Jefferson and people like him that started off the house movement. And I'll have to send you a video about him.
Cool.
And then you'll hear the sax coming in and to the records, and it's fucking amazing. And saxophone is one of the top instruments of house music as well, because it comes from the jazz house. Now, when I was playing in Australia in 2000, I was there for a year in 2000, and I went over with some of my English DJs, and we played Darling Harbour, King's Cross, the Sugar Reef Club. And in the Sugar Reef Club in Darling Harbour, or King's Cross, it was a total surprise to me. I was just DJing away, and this guy came up to me and patted on my back as I was switching records. And he said, "Jim, can you play this?" And one of the guys, the promoter guys, came up and said, "He's one of our live PAs." So I said, "No problem."
Right.
And so I played his tune, and right in the middle of it, I'd never seen a pickup without a lead. It was my first time. And he went out to the crowd and he played the sax, and by God, ladies and gentlemen, blew the house down. So I played, one of the girls he was with passed me the same record and signed it with him and all that. So I played the B side and the A side to give him more time with the saxophone for the public. And he blew the night, absolutely amazing. The best night, one of the best nights I ever had in DJing.
Amazing, man. Deadly.
High Liga and Riga.
From what age do you think was your best years DJ?
The best years were the most dangerous years. And I mean that because the club scene, there was a big fight for the club scenes in London. And by drug dealers and gangs, and the parts that we didn't see, but the parts that we heard of, was about the gangs coming in with machetes, and these were like, there'd be triads, there'd be yardies, and lots of different things like that were going on. In control of drugs, but they were the best years of my life because you survived them. You survived the night, you got paid, and the money was going higher and higher and higher all the time, especially to play the dangerous clubs. So we made ass out of them, and we got the whole fucking crowd moving, you know. So yeah, there's so many stories. Like when I do write it in the book, you know, the stories of Technotronic, meeting the guys and then being with the guys. But when you come back to Kilkenny, and that's another question you were just about to ask me, what was it like to come back? At first it was good. When I came back to Kilkenny, and the papers were all over the place about my return, which was lovely. But I found that when people say, "Oh, can I get on your label?" My label is my independent label called One Bass 9 Recordings. And One Bass 9 Recordings has been around since 2013, 2014. It's done very, very, very well. And that's ONEBASS number 9 Recordings. And people say, "Oh, I want to be signed up to your label." Really? Well, all right. And what do you do? And there's a lot of people, some could do an instrument or play a pad, but I didn't see the musician side come out of them. And I said no.
What are you looking for when you want to?
I'm looking for, well,
sign someone.
If I sign somebody up, you know, there's a lot of money to be made in Germany even today, and Holland even today. Decks are coming back, so if I sign somebody up and put them on a record, which is all paid by me, and all the mastering and all the covering and everything, but they have to be with quality, able to play a quality instrument, and an instrument that's going to go with the music that I do.
So you would be producing for them?
Yeah, and getting the gigs and stuff like that. But I mean, they can get a gig. I DJ after their set, and then they come on in the set, play the sax with a nice instrumental piece, maybe a record that I make, and but you can't expect somebody to sign you up if you are not playing out. If you're not actually playing out, it doesn't matter about Kilkenny. But if you're playing somewhere like London, you say to me, Jim, I got a gig in London, right, I'll get a Ryanair flight, I'll be over there to see it. I got lots of people.
Like a train.
It's unreal, isn't it? This place is fucking loud, man. Put that in. Fucking hell, man. Sitting in a quiet place and it's the noisiest. But anybody can have a gig and say, look, you know, would you sign me up? If I sign them up, there has to be 150% dedication.
Yeah.
150%. And if there isn't even 99.9%, then fuck off.
Yeah.
Because I can't afford that kind of mess up.
Yeah.
Like
right.
you being late, like, you know, 2 hours late, was it?
Yeah, I was a little bit late.
2
today.
fucking hours late. And
Jimmy had like 4 coffees drank. I ran. And I was like, fuck, Jimmy, I'm sorry. I was uploading the video for Cuckoo Fest and
uploading a video for Cuckoo Fest, and Jimmy Saunders sitting
I
here.
know it's for suicide intervention, so it's a good cause.
Well, I nearly committed suicide. Wondering, was he going to be here? So back to Kilkenny. Kilkenny has got a lot of people that are interested in something one day,
Yeah.
and then they're interested in something else the
I know,
next
it's
day.
like that, yeah, it's a bit bipolar.
It's very bipolar,
Yeah.
and
It's hard to stick to a plan.
and then people say, well, how did you manage to do that and get there and still on it? And because of dedication, everything's all about dedication. And if you make up your mind, not about being famous. For me, it wasn't ever about being famous. It was about getting out there, making the music, doing it, and seeing how far I go with it. And so I've done this music for over 25 years.
Amazing.
And 16 or 18 singles, 6 albums, and made loads of money.
Right,
And I remember saying to the guys, when I come back, I'm going to come back with a convertible,
right.
you know. And so I ended up coming back with things I wanted to come back with, not to show off, but as a souvenir of what I've done. So I ended up some days going around town and saying, right, buy this, and just fucking live that kind of life.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, I'm well under a fiver.
A fiver? I have a fiver.
I'm only messing them.
Yeah, I have a fiver here.
That's all right, I got $5 in the back pocket if you needed there, like.
Sure, I'll take it.
I know you would. You have to show off and try and.
We have 15.
I'm just thinking, if I was Adam's bank manager, right? And I said, Adam, I'll be there at night. You said you're going to be there 11. And he comes up, what time was it? 1:30?
Oh yeah, it was something like that.
No, it wasn't 1:30.
It wasn't that late.
No, it was only 11:30. But he's done all right.
Yeah.
But like I said, that people that are wondering today, you make a step for yourself and go outside the box and don't tell the world what you're doing. Go out and do it and see where it gets you. And a year's enough to find out whether you're good enough or not. Now, if actors want to go out and waste their time and walking up and down Hollywood like idiots, that's fine, but they do it for years, but they get nowhere. Always travel. And for Adam's saxophone, he'd do very well in New Orleans. Absolutely amazing place. I was there. Lucky I was there before that hurricane happened. But places like New Orleans, Chicago, going on the streets in the day and sometimes getting an atmosphere of a subway. But the thing about a subway is you don't want to be in a subway where everybody's walking past you. Because you may not believe this, but behavior breeds behavior. In a club, you have everybody, they're either going to go to the bar or they're going to watch it. And I guarantee you 99.9% will watch it while you're in session. So I would highly recommend for places like Adam would definitely be the clubs, and get involved with club owners, and usually guys that own bars. You'll find out who's the guy that hires, and just tell them, look, I'll come in with me sax, I'll do 10 minutes, and if you want me for an hour, I'd like a bit of payment on that. And if you got any guys that want a session player, get your name out there as a session player. It's very important, because I could be doing a track. I'm starting my creation on tracks now in September. Well, I could ring up and say, look, I need a sax, come down here, mate. I got a good microphone, so, and then I'll be able to do all the tricks I need to do on the Cubase, so, or whatever DAW I have. I have 3 DAWs, but get out there. London today is extremely slow. It's terribly slow, and it's very sad that the music industry today is not an industry much anymore. Everybody's sadly depending on MP3s, and you can actually download anything you hear on YouTube. And for people that think it's great to go on Spotify, it's not. These platforms are absolute rubbish, and all they do is steal from the artist. That's all they're good at. You don't get anything from these. It's other labels. I'm on a label in Los Angeles, and I'm on Spotify. He said that income was good, and he sent me over a couple of quid. But to make your own website, advertise your website, get it out there, let people.
So would you recommend take everything down off Spotify?
No, leave it there. That's a taste. Funny enough, a girl I was talking to here earlier asked me was I on Spotify, and but get people onto your website. Get your website up and going. I pay about 500, 600 for each of my websites, and it's quite cheap because the return has been 10 times, and that's not even in half a year. When you get yourself on your website then, and a few little photographs and some nice lovely music, and let people sell your skills to the highest level.
Advertise it.
Absolutely advertise it, because they don't want to be paying 300,000-400,000 when they can pay 5,000 to someone that can do just as good.
Yeah. Great. Thanks a million, Jimmy, for all your time.
I just hope.
It's been a pleasure.
There's lots more, and when I do write the book, Adam will
the links will be there in the description anyway. You can go to Jimmy's website and all his other platforms, you know.
Jimmy Saunders on Facebook, and jimmysaunders.com, 1Base9 Recordings, James Saunders from the Outside In, and the last one and the newest one is jimmysaunders-music.com. So hope you enjoyed.
Thank you, man.
And proud to be a Kilkenny man.